Why did you leave your last job feels like a trick question because it is one. It's way more than what it seems on the surface. In fact, there's 3 critical reasons that employers ask this question, and only one of them actually has to do with wanting to understand the circumstances that made you leave. In this video, I'll explain why an employer asks this question and share strategies for responding depending on if you left voluntarily, if you were laid off, or if you were fired. I'll also give some example responses that you can use if you just need something quick to say that's still professional. Oh, and be sure to stick around to the end because I'll share some really important advice about how long your answer should be. It's actually pretty impactful. All right, let's hop into the 3 reasons why employers ask this question. First up is context setting. So this is the obvious surface level portion of the question. Employers want to understand why you left your last job because they want to know what brings you to this opportunity here today. To answer this concern, speak succinctly about what happened. The second reason why this question gets asked is a professionalism test. So can you speak positively and diplomatically about your past job while still getting your point across? If you can't, then that's going to be a big red flag to your possible new employer. So to pass this test, go ahead and speak as positively as possible about your former employer while refraining from airing out any old grievances. If you don't feel that you can speak well about your last job while still remaining honest, then I'll go ahead and give you some advice for that later in the video. The third and final component of this question is a commitment evaluation. Is the reason why you left your former job something that could make you leave this job too? Hiring is an expensive, resource-heavy process for employers. So they want to make sure whoever they bring on is a long-term investment. To score some points here and alleviate those possible concerns, go ahead and explain how you see this job as getting you to where you want to go in terms of your career path. And if you can, be explicit about seeing this opportunity as a long-term investment too. So now that we know why employers ask this question, let's explain how to respond depending on the way that your relationship with your former employer ended. But first, before I get into that, if you've watched this far, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Okay, situation 1, you left voluntarily. If you left voluntarily and you're still on good terms with your former employer, great. Go ahead and explain that it was a lovely opportunity and you enjoyed XYZ things about it, but ultimately you decided to leave because you were looking for something different. Then affirm your commitment to this new job by explaining how this opportunity offers you that something different and that you're very excited to build the next steps in your career off of it. Now, if you left voluntarily, but you don't have glowing things that you can sincerely say about your former employer, that is perfectly okay too. In this case, instead of focusing on what a wonderful working environment it was, focus on what you learned. What skills did you have to refine or develop in order to succeed in that former position? Did you go through any particular training that allows you to bring something valuable to this new role? If you're coming up blank and you still feel like you have nothing positive to say about your last job, wasn't a good working environment, you didn't learn anything, first of all, I'm sorry. And second of all, here's what you should do. Go ahead and just simply state, I was grateful for the opportunity, and then talk about, here's what I was looking for when I chose to leave and why this new opportunity fulfills that. Even if you weren't 100% grateful for the opportunity that it presented you, it's really important to just go ahead and say this. You got to look out for number 1, and this will help you pass that professionalism test while not having to make up a ton of details about what was so great about the job, Regardless of whether you had a great experience with your former employer or a not so good one, it can always be pretty difficult to quickly sum up what it was exactly that made you leave. Oftentimes there's a number of factors, but in this case, it's important just to hone in on the biggest one. So I have a few examples that I'll read off here that are short, sweet, and totally appropriate to share in an interview setting. Seeking opportunities for leadership or responsibility, seeking a more dynamic, collaborative, creative, whatever it is, environment, seeking to engage in a different business area, seeking to hone a certain skill, seeking to work in a company that's in a different stage of development. Maybe you were in a big corporation, now you want to move to more of a startup environment. And finally, seeking to work in a different physical location or with a different work schedule. So again, although you probably had 50 reasons for wanting to leave your last job, I'd really recommend honing in on one. And the best way to choose that one reason is to select the one that positions this new opportunity as the solution to the problem. So that can be something as simple as, while I learned a great deal about people management in my last position, and I truly enjoyed the company's collaborative work environment, I was lacking opportunities to grow my leadership, which is something that's critical to my career goals. That's why I'm so excited to be interviewing for a company that actively cultivates opportunities for leadership among high-performing employees. For more advice on explaining why you want to work for a certain company, I highly recommend checking out this video right here. Let's move on to situation 2. You were laid off. Getting laid off is an incredibly challenging position to be in, and it typically has nothing to do with individual employee performance. Thankfully, most interviewers do understand that getting laid off has to do with company restructuring, economic downturns, or other factors that are completely beyond your control. If you were laid off, the same general response formula applies, just with a couple slight tweaks. So first of all, express your gratitude for the opportunity as per usual, but then instead of describing what you learned or liked about the company, emphasize your contribution to the organization. Then directly but succinctly explain what happened, what prompted the layoffs, before finally concluding by describing what it was about this opportunity in particular that makes you feel compelled to apply and pursue it. That way, it is expressly clear that the layoff was not a result of any poor performance and that you are viewing this unexpected change as an opportunity to thoughtfully approach the next step in your career. So for an example of what that might sound like, you can say something along the lines of, I was incredibly passionate about my former job, which my performance feedback and XYZ accomplishments clearly speak to. However, the company was purchased by a larger competitor and many roles, including mine, were redundant. While I didn't expect to conclude working with my former employer at that time, I will say that this job search feels like a great chance to do something like working for an early stage company like this one, which is something I've always aspired to do. Situation 3, you were fired. Now, being terminated is obviously an incredibly difficult and stressful position to be in. However, many career coaches will say that, being let go is often an opportunity in disguise. Here's a chance to find a company or role that's a better match for your interests and values. So how do you share this information about being terminated? Well, since employers can see and contact who you've worked with previously, it is not in your best interest to try and hide or obscure that information or even to talk around it. So what do you do? Well, let's go back to that baseline formula, right? You want to explain what happened, show professionalism, and then, emphasize your commitment to the role. So in the case of being fired in particular, we really want to double down on why, explaining why you would perform very well in this new opportunity. I'd also really recommend starting out with the hard stuff first, so that way you can end on a positive note. So here's an example. Though I cared very much about meeting company needs in my last role, I didn't hit my sales quota several quarters in a row, which led my former employer to let me go. I tried to increase my performance by undergoing additional training, but upon reflection, I've realized that my skills better position me for an account management role that focuses on ongoing client relationships rather than hitting a sales target. That's why I'm so excited to be interviewing for an account management position that will allow me to leverage my strong interpersonal and organizational strengths. With this approach, you show professionalism, own your history, demonstrate self-awareness, and explain why you're well positioned for success in this new role. No matter the situation that happened previously, it is really critical to take ownership over what happened. I'll also add that your body language is really critical in this instance. Rather than dropping your gaze and sort of crumpling your body language inward, it's really important to keep that direct contact with your eyes and make sure that your torso remains open and your posture is straight. That way you seem collected, forthright, and at ease. If you feel that way, you're assuring your employer or potential employer that they can feel that way too. Finally, here's that important bonus tip I promised you. In all cases, keep the duration that you discuss your former employer to a minimum and really double down on why you're so excited about this new job. That's because this is kind of like having the exes conversation with someone you're newly dating. You want to be honest, classy, and share the important details. Avoid telling a long, complex story or offering too much information, which sometimes just serves to obscure the main point, which is why you and this job are a great match. So try and keep your answer to less than a minute. But what's most important is what brings you to the opportunity today. Now let's do a quick recap of what we've covered today. I'll quickly speed through it right here. First off, when an interviewer asks, why did you leave your last job? Understand that they're really trying to gauge 3 things: the context of what happened, your professionalism, and your commitment to the future role. Keep those 3 things in mind when you structure your answer, regardless of why it was that you left. Second, if you voluntarily left your former employer, show gratitude, explain why you left, and what draws you to the new opportunity today. Now, if you were laid off, in contrast, follow that same formula, but tweak it by emphasizing your contribution and directly speaking about what happened, what prompted the layoffs. And on a positive note, by explaining how you're thoughtfully using this opportunity to sculpt your career. If you were fired, remain professional, explain why you were let go, how you've adapted or what you've learned, and why you will perform well in this new role. Keep your body language confident and open so that your employer knows that you're at ease with the situation and that they should feel that way too. And finally, remember my bonus tip about exes. Try and keep past talk to a minimum and really emphasize in all cases what it is about this opportunity that you're choosing and you find to be so compelling. Remember, this is natural. People leave jobs for a million different reasons, and they do it with some level of frequency. Your interviewer has probably left a job before and understands that, it can be kind of hard to talk about your past experiences in a positive light. However, your ability to do so will be something that sets you miles apart from the other candidates. If you found this video helpful, please hit the like button down below. You can subscribe to our channel right here for more career advice. And for some more interviewing tips in particular, check out this playlist. Or if you'd like some advice on how to answer the 10 trickiest interview questions, we've got a great video right here. All right, thank you again, and I'll see you next time.